Now you are on the journey to learn or to study how to reconstruct the history. Can you tell me how to reconstruct the history? What are the ways or sources through which we are able to reconstruct the history? Sources. Okay. Basically, reconstruction of the history could be done through two ways. One is the through literary sources, another one is the through non-literary sources. Through one is the non-literary sources, another one is the literary sources. Through non-literary sources and the literary sources. Now, what do you understand by this term non-literary sources? Through non-literary sources means through various archaeological remains, coins, inscription, etc. So, under this non-literary sources, we will see we are able to reconstruct the history with the help of archaeological remains or through coins or through inscriptions. Okay, while in the literary sources we are going to see that various literatures, like it could be religious literature, just literature, or secular literature. This either the religious literature or the secular literature help us to reconstruct the history of the past. Okay, so these are the ways through which we are able to reconstruct the history. For example, archaeological remains, coin, inscription, foreign accounts, or literary sources like religious literatures or secular literatures. Clear? Okay. Clear? Need to take down this point. Varsha is asking, can we need to take down these points? No, Varsha, you do not have to jot it down any point. Why? Because I am going to provide the notes after the class. So whatever I am going to teach, I am also going to incorporate this information in the notes as well. So you do not have to note it down anything except few things I will mention what information you need to note down. Currently, you do not need to note down anything and just try to focus on the lecture. Okay. And meanwhile, if you have any doubt, feel free to ask me in the chat box. Sohani is saying seals. Yes, Sohani, you're right. We will talk about these seals as well when we are going to talk about the inscriptions. Okay. Okay. Now we will see how these non-literary sources and literary sources help us to reconstruct the history. First, we will talk about the archaeological finding or archaeological remains. Okay. So reconstruct meaning is the sense of knowing about the past. Yes, Ramaya. Reconstruct means through this sources we are able to know about the past event, that what was happened in the past through means of these archaeological findings or literary sources. Okay. Now I have mentioned the archaeological remains. Remains. So basically, what is archaeological remain? Archaeological remain is something that is a result of exploration and excavation. Exploration and excavation. खुदाई का जो result होता है उसको archaeological remains कहते हैं. Excavation and exploration. Okay. Now this excavation and exploration happens in two ways, vertical exploration or excavation, or horizontal excavation and or exploration. Vertical or horizontal, it happens through uh, vertical and horizontal acceleration. Okay. Now the science which deal with the digging of the old mounds, the science will deal with the digging of the old mounds in a successive layer or in a systematic manner. It is known as archaeological finding or archaeological remains. So the science which deal with the digging of the old mound in a systematic manner in a successive layer, and which enable us to form an idea of the material life of the people who were residing in these areas, it is known as archaeological finding or archaeological remains. Okay, clear? So what I have said, basically material remains which recovered through excavation or exploration give us the idea of the people, society or materialistic life that they were living in the past. Clear? Clear? So this is the one way through which we know about the past. Okay. Now in the beginning of the lecture I have said that the history is an umbrella term which is related with the past, event, discovery, collection, organization, presentation and also interpretation. As let's suppose we are the geologists were able to found some thing X thing during the exploration or excavation. Now the geologist will try to get an idea what was the use of this X thing. Let's suppose they were able to found the pottery. They were able to found the pottery. Now through this pottery they will get the idea that the people of that time used to store either water or grain or coins in this pottery. So if we found the coins in the pottery, they uh, uh, it means the economic activities were happening during that days. If they found grains or crops from this pottery, it means agriculture activity was happening. So it is called the interpretation of the artifacts. So now the historians or the geologists are trying to interpret the history of that period. Okay, and that is why I have focused on this term interpretation. Okay, because they do not know what was the exact use of this pottery. Maybe it could be used for storing of grains, alcohol or coins, etc. Clear? So it is history is also is the interpretation of the event or interpretation of the information. I hope this much is clear. So what is archaeological or material remains? Basically it is science which deal with the digging of the old mound in a systematic manner. Clear? Okay. Now moving on to the next thing, that is the coins. Coins look a very small object, but trust me, coins played a very significant role in the construction of the past. Now, can you tell me how coins help us to reconstruct the past? How we are able to reconstruct the past with the help of the coins? Anybody? Sohani, Varsha, Shruti, Ramya, Mahi, can you please tell me how we are able to reconstruct the past with the help of coins? Just try to make this conversation more interactive. I just don't want to be a one-way speaker in this class. You can give me any idea, any answer. Even if you do not know the answer, try to come up with any answer. It could be a wrong answer, but still try to give me answers. And if you don't know the answer, just put no in the chat box. Sir, sorry sir, I'm not able to give answer of this particular question. It provides king's dynasty. Yes, Varsha. This could be one of the way through which we are able to. Anand is saying coin metal used image inscription. Yes. Symbol of kingdom to which they belong. Yes. Shruti is saying. Okay. Basically, in ancient India, currency was not issued in the form of paper, but as in the form of coins. Okay, and the earliest coin that we have found from India had a very little symbols. Now, look, the shape of the earlier coins are not in a regular circular shape. They are in a very disymmetric shape. Okay, now but gradually the shape of the coin become more circular in shape. Okay, now if the kingdom is able to mint gold coins, it means the trading and trade or commerce activities were flourishing during that period. For example, if we talk about the Gupta period, the largest number of the gold coin in India was issued during the Gupta period, and that is why this period of India, it is also known as the golden age of India. The Gupta period is also known as the golden age of India. Why? Because during this period, trade and commerce were flourishing. And how we got to know about this thing, that trade and commerce were flourishing? Because they had issued large number of gold coins. If any kingdom, any dynasty, or in present day also, if any government is issuing currency on a very large scale, it means its currency is booming. The trade and economic activity was happening through the exchange of that particular currency. And this coins also indicate, let's suppose this is India and we have found the coins from this region, it means it also indicate the region of circulation. The coins was also indicate the region of their circulation, कि किस area के अंदर वो coin है. तो जिस area में होगा तो maybe that area is marked as the kingdom of that particular king. So it also indicate the region of the dynasty or of the ruler. It also indicate the region. It also indicate the health of the economy. In the later Gupta period, we have already talked about the Gupta period. Now, during the later Vedic, later Gupta period, very less number of coins have been recovered. Very less. It means the trade and commerce activity is not happening at a very large scale. Okay. So during the post Gupta period, बहुत सारे coins नहीं मिले हमें, तो बहुत ज़्यादा trade भी नहीं हो रहा होगा, इसकी वजह से हमें coins भी नहीं मिले. So the coins not only indicate the region of the circulation, but it also indicate the health of the economy. Clear? During the later phase, earlier the coins, as I have said, they were not in a regular or irregular in shape. Later on, they became more rounded or more circular in shape. This circular in shape is also indicate that the metallurgy was also advancing. अच्छी मशीनें आई होंगी तभी तो वो गोल्ड कॉइन मिंट कर पा रहे हैं, है ना. तो मेटलर्जी वाज आल्सो ऑन अ वेरी एडवांस स्केल. देन earlier coin only having few symbols. The initial coins were only having few symbols, and these coins were known as the punched mark coins. The earlier coins have few symbols and they were known as the punched marked coins. Okay, but later coins have dates, the image of god, goddesses, or the image of or portrait of king or queen. Now this image of king or queen also indicate the advanced level of metallurgy in that particular area, है ना, the advanced level of metallurgy. And this minting of inscription, the inscription is also indicate the language, कि which language they were using to communicate with each other, है ना. आज भी हम अगर हम सिक्के पे देखते हैं कुछ लिखा रहता है हिंदी के अंदर और इंग्लिश के अंदर. सो वी यूज हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश बोथ द लैंग्वेजेस इन इंडिया बिकॉज द कॉइन्स is circulating in the Indian region only, है ना. It also indicated we are using Hindi as a language or English as a language, and if they also depicting the images of god and goddesses, it also reveals the religious belief of the people, that either they were Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, or any other belong to the any other community. Okay, it also, the image of god and goddesses is also reflect the religious belief of the people. Okay, so look, these coins are so revealing that they not only indicate the economy, the status of the economy, but it also indicate the language that they were using. It also tell us about the region where they were circulating. It also tell about the which dynasty have issued those coins, and it also talk about the religious belief of those people. Clear? Clear? I hope this much is clear. Just give me a thumbs up if you have understood what was the use of coin and how we are able to reconstruct the history with the help of the coins. Mahi, Anand, Varsha, Shruti, Sohani, Ramya. This much is clear to you guys? So what we have learned, the coins, earlier coins were made from the, they were known as the punched mark coin, and this question was actually asked by the UPSC in the previous years, that the punch mark coin were made up of which metal. So can you tell me the punch mark coin were made of which metal? किस metal से बने थे ये punch mark coin? Can anybody tell me? The punch mark coin was made from which metal? Yes, tell me. This was the UPSC, actual UPSC prelims question. The punched mark coin was made of which metal? Yes, anybody? Mahi is saying bronze. No. Varsha is saying silver. Anybody else? The punch mark coin were made up of silver and copper both. The earliest coin, which were known as the punch mark coin, were made of silver and copper both. And later on, people used to make mint coins of different metals like silver, copper, lead, etc. Along with silver, Harshit, it is copper also. Okay. So we have understood about the coins. Also, can you know the study of coin is called as? The study of coin is called. So there is a full course or a term that is used for this thing. People who used to study about the coin, they were known as numismatics. So study of coin is known as numismatic. The study of coin, आपने देखा होगा बहुत सारे लोगों को शौक होता है coins collect करने का, तो उनको numismatics कहते हैं. Okay, so the study of coin is called numismatic. Okay, moving on. The next source through which we are able to reconstruct the history, and again this is one of the most important source which help us to reconstruct the history, is the inscriptions. Inscription, and the people and the study of inscription is called epigraphy. The study of inscription is called epigraphy. Okay, now inscription also played a very important role in the reconstruction of the history. Earlier the inscription were carved out of stone, so they were written on stones. Earlier they were written on stone, but later on people started writing inscription on copper plates. Okay, copper plate. Earlier, they used to written down things on the stone, but later on with the invention or discovery of the copper, they use copper plate for writing things. Okay, what was the purpose and object of this inscription? Can anybody tell me what was the purpose of this inscription? What was the object or purpose? Why do people need to write down things on stone or copper plates? Why they need to note it down? Anything? What was the purpose? Basically, these copper plates or stone usually record some achievements, ideas, or royal order and decision that help for the understanding of the people. So let's suppose if I'm a king and I want to pass an order to my officials. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to tell them each and every day. What I'm going to do, I'm going to place a board, okay, or place an inscription, and now this inscription become a rule. Okay, so sometime what happened, ruler used this inscription to mark their victory or for their achievement, like Ashoka. So what Ashoka have done, when Ashoka have won any war, so to mark the victory of this war, they Ashoka had erected many pillars. So आपने सुना भी होगा कि अशोका पिलर हैं ये अशोका की स्क्रिप्ट है या इंस्क्रिप्शन है. So what ruler used to do, if they want to communicate their ideas, royal degree, or they also want to mark their achievement or victory, they used to carve down on the stones or on the copper plates. Yes, Shruti, you're right. Mahi, you're also right. So basically, they engraved on a hard surface such as stone and metal like copper, which usually records some achievements, ideas, royal order, and decision help in understanding. And this also help us to understand. This inscription also help us to understand what kind of language they were using, what was their religious belief, what was the structure of the society, how was the economy of that time. Achha, can you tell me which was the first language that was used for the inscription? Which was the first language which was used for the inscription? कौन सी पहली भाषा थी जो हमने इंस्क्रिप्शन के लिए यूज करी? Which was the first language? Language. Yes, anybody. This is a very interesting question. Which was the first language that was used for the inscription? And if you are able to tell me the time period, so I will really get impressed. During which time we started writing on these stones or on the copper plates? Can anybody tell me which was the first language that was used for the inscription or writing on the stones or on copper plates? So the answer is it was Prakrit. It was Prakrit was the language. Prakrit. Okay. So Prakrit was the first language that was used to write inscriptions on stone. Okay, Prakrit. And later on, from the 2nd century onwards, Sanskrit was also used. Sanskrit. So Prakrit is older than the Sanskrit. Prakrit is no Varsha, it is not Sanskrit, it is Prakrit. Okay, so Prakrit was the first language that was used for writing inscription on the stones, and later on, from the 2nd century onward, people also adopted Sanskrit along with the Prakrit. Along with the Prakrit, they also adopted Sanskrit for writing on the stone or copper plates. Okay, from 9th century onwards, people also started writing inscription in their regional language. From the 9th century onwards, people started using regional language like Tulu, Tamil, Telugu, etc. Anand, you are right. Okay, clear. So in this manner, the inscription throw light on the social, political, economical sphere of the life, and this is how we are able to reconstruct the history of the past by means of inscription. Okay, moving on. Now, apart from this non-literary sources, we have a plethora of literary sources. Now, we have divided the literary sources into the uh, religious literature and the secular literature.
So let's start with the first topic. Okay, so a question has been asked. A direct question asked from NCRTs for the, just a minute, for economic subjects. Yes, many questions directly from the NCRT are asked. And as I told you, we will be taking up those questions in the class itself. So if there are any direct questions that have come from that topic, we'll be solving them in class. So yes, 100%. Many questions come directly from the NCRT, especially from economics. Okay. Question has been asked. Economics पे हम क्या-क्या cover करेंगे? Can you tell me in brief? Basically asking that what are the topics we'll be covering in economics? Can I tell you in brief? So I give you the book list. तो उन books में जितने भी topic है, every topic we'll be covering. So there's no point in giving you an entire list of topics. Every day as we go forward, we'll be covering those topics. ठीक है? So it is better that I tell you कि कौन से book में से कौन से chapters we'll be doing. As I'm teaching, I'll be telling you that in detail. Okay? Yes, any more questions? Please let me know. We'll be starting with the class 12th microeconomics textbook and then moving on to macroeconomics, and then later we'll be covering the class 11th NCRT. Okay, chali, let's start. Okay. So, to understand economics, see, one of the things that you need to understand is we'll be starting the study of economics like a story. ठीक है? So हम बहुत ही basic चीजें पहले समझ जाते हैं. So the first and the foremost thing that the NCRT talks about is the concept of scarcity. Scarcity का बहुत ही simple meaning है. It means that any individual, no matter how rich or poor, will not be able to purchase everything that they want and need. Meaning that people in the society, people like you, I, even Ratan Tata, for example, all of us have one thing in common is that we have multiple needs. Agar hamare paas, if we have a house of 3 BHK, we want a 4 BHK. If we have one car, we'll be wishing for 2 cars. If we can afford one holiday per year, we'll be wishing that kash, teen holidays saal mein ho jati. So that means human beings and their wants and desires and needs are unlimited. Okay? Unlimited hai hamari needs. But the thing is, resources in a country, in an economy, money in the economy, money with a person, you and I, time, everything is limited. ठीक है? So जितना time हमारे पास है, the amount of time we have in a day, the amount of hours we can work, the amount of money we can earn, the amount of savings we have, all of that is limited. That means कि कभी भी हमारी हर desire, हमारी हर need, हमारी हर want, it will not be completed. We will always be facing a scarcity or a कमी. In Hindi you can understand. हमेशा होगी. So इसकी वजह से, because of this problem, every individual at every point of time has to make choices, has to take decisions. So when you go to buy a simple thing as vegetables, you have a budget of 100 rupees. You'll have to choose that these are the things I want, these are the things I need. Man bhi karega to kai baar we will not be able to afford certain things. Similarly, even if you go to buy a car, agar 15 lakh ka bhi budget, if you have a budget of even 15 lakhs, there'll still be things that you'll not be able to afford. So you have to make a choice. अभी आपके पास दिन में कितने घंटे? 24 hours. You have to make a choice. Do I start a job? Do I take up a job? Or do I study for UPSC exam? Meaning that everything, every time, every person has to make decisions, has to make choices, because no individual in a society has everything that he or she needs. Okay, our needs are unlimited, but the resources we have is limited. Okay, so this choice has to be made. So the study of this choice making, the study of how a society, of how an individual chooses to use their limited resources, is the study of economics. बहुत simple definition है. So how an individual, how a society, how an economy chooses, makes decision given the problem of limited resources, limited time, limited money, is the study of economics. Very simple. Now, this analysis, this study of economics is divided into two branches, micro and macroeconomics. मतलब इकोनॉमिक्स अगर एक सब्जेक्ट है तो उसके दो पार्ट्स हैं. हमने बुक्स भी देखी, एक माइक्रो की बुक थी, एक मैक्रो की बुक थी. तो टू पार्ट्स है, माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स एंड मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स. नाउ व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू? Very simple. Micro means small. So when you are studying the decision making of one person, one individual, one household, one company, one sector, you are analyzing things from the micro perspective, from a small perspective. So if I say that how much does Amit spend in a year, that is the study of microeconomics. If I want to know how many cars are produced in India in 1 year, I am studying things from the perspective of microeconomics. Okay? If I want to study the increase in production of potatoes in the country, I am studying micro. Okay? So individual company, individual firms, individual household industries, all of this microeconomics. So इसीलिए याद कीजिए, when we started the class, I told you microeconomics is not that important. Only 2 chapters. Why? Because individual decision making इतना important नहीं है. What is important is the subject of macroeconomics. जब आप पूरी इकोनॉमी को पढ़ते हो, you are studying the entire country, entire India. If you're studying, that is macroeconomics, and this is the most important topic from economics, जहां से maximum questions आते हैं. So ये बहुत ध्यान से करना है. So topics like inflation, if you want to study the inflation in India, inflation means महंगाई, कितनी महंगाई इंडिया में बढ़ रही है या कम हो रही है, that is macroeconomics. If you want to study the unemployment level, मतलब बेरोजगारी, how many people do not have jobs, you are studying macro. If you want to study poverty in India, if you want to study national income, GDP of India, वो सारा आता है macroeconomics में. मतलब when you study the whole economy together, you are studying macroeconomics. ठीक है? So ये बहुत basic difference है. I hope it is clear. So economics के 2 branches, micro, macro. Macro is the most important. ठीक है? Definition नहीं आएगा. UPSC will never ask you what is microeconomics, how is it different from macroeconomics. इस तरह के questions नहीं आते. It is just for our own clarity. Now, in any economy, there are certain activities that are happening. ठीक है? So imagine India. India में daily basis पे there are many activities that are happening at the same time. US में भी, Pakistan में भी, Sri Lanka में भी, every country, there are certain economic activities that are happening in every economy. They are summarized into 3 parts. पहला है production. So मान लीजिए there's a factory that has been set up, okay, and it is producing some goods, okay. So this is the activity of production. So it is a very important part of any economy, right? अब ये products जो produce हो रहे हैं, someone is going to purchase it, people like you and I. So when we buy it, what is going to happen? It is the activity of consumption. ठीक है? एक company, एक firm प्रोड्यूस करती है गुड्स और सर्विसेज और उसे कंज्यूम करते हैं हम, हमारे जैसे लोग, हाउस होल्ड्स, इंडिविजुअल्स एक्सेट्रा। बदले में क्या होता है? बदले में वी एक्सचेंज इट फॉर मनी, वी गिव आवर मनी टू द कंपनी, okay, that is how they earn their money. So this is the function of exchange, exchanging money for all the goods and services you purchased, exchanging your labor for money etc. ठीक है? So तीन basic economic activities हैं: production, exchange and consumption. Repeat after me. What are the three basic economic activities? Production, exchange and consumption. Now let's understand them one by one. और इसमें कुछ keywords हैं which you will have to remember, because when you read any book, any topic, these words will be used and they will expect you कि आपको पता होगा इसका meaning. तो ये words हमेशा याद रखने हैं. Let's look at the first economic activity. It was called production. Now, what is production? The aim of production is to produce goods and services that people want. Simple है. What is production? Producing goods and services that people in the country want. अब इस प्रोसेस में ये प्रोसेस कैसे होता है और क्या टेक्निकल टर्म्स एसोसिएटेड है, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड. ओके, सो बेसिकली in the process of production, raw materials, I hope you know, raw materials are combined with other things and made into the final product or service. Okay? So the requirements, the things which are needed to make the production process possible are called factors of production. Okay? ये थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल वर्ड है, ये हमेशा याद रखना. You have to remember this. Factors of production. This means the requirements to make production possible. ठीक है? Factors of production basically means things which are required to make production process possible. ठीक है? What are they? If I ask you, what are the requirements to make production happen? मान लीजिए you want to set up a factory that manufactures watches. ठीक है? So you want to produce watches. So what are the things you need? These are the factors of production. The first thing you will need is you will need land. You will need things like land. You will need a building. Okay? So the first requirement, the first factor of production is land. Because if you do not have land, you cannot start production. So agar aapka kaam hai, if you are producing software also, if you are producing a service also, you still need an office, you still need some space. So कुछ भी बनाने के लिए the first and foremost requirement is and other natural resources. ठीक है? The first factor of production. Now also the जैसे ही आपने एक फैक्ट्री खड़ी कर ली, now you need to start production, you need to start making watches. What will you need? You will need labor or people who will be working here in your factory. Now this labor can be manager also, highly qualified, you're paying them very good salary. It can also be a manual laborer who is working. So the second factor of production is labor, people who will work in your company, who will work on your factory, in your help you in the production process. So even highly skilled workers or manual laborers. Now, the third thing you will need is called capital. Okay, capital. Now, think about it. Can you start the production process without money? The answer is no. You need money. So, inflow of money is needed at all times. Can you start production without tools, machinery? The answer is no. So all of these things are combined into one category called capital. ठीक है? It is of two types. Physical capital, पहला part है capital का. That means tools, machinery, which are used over many years. ठीक है? So this is called fixed capital. मतलब एक बार अगर आपने मशीनरी खरीद ली, if you have purchased machinery once, you can use it for 20 years, 30 years, it will stay fixed in one place. If you have bought tools, screwdriver, hammer, etc., you can use it for 50 years, 40 years. So fixed capital. The second type of capital is working capital. Working मतलब ये एक प्रोडक्शन आपने किया, it ends, you need to buy more. ठीक है? तो वो सालों साल नहीं चलता, it gets used up in the process of production. So things like money, things like raw material. So watch produce करने के लिए you need steel, you need plastic, you need leather, strap, everything you need. So all of that is working capital. Money in the company, all of that you will need, and that is a working capital. So first क्या था, ये याद कर लीजिए, land. Second is labor. Third is things like tools, machinery, money. These are capital. And the fourth and one of the most important requirement is an entrepreneur. Okay, the fourth is an entrepreneur. What is that? A person who has the knowledge and the skill and the risk-taking ability to combine all of this. So land खरीदना, land को रेंट पे लेना, लेबर इकट्ठा करना, फाइंडिंग लेबर, और कैपिटल का इंतजाम जो करता है, कंबाइन करता है इन तीन चीजों को, दैट पर्सन इज कॉल्ड द एंटरप्रेन्योर, और दी यू कैन थिंक ऑफ इट इन सिंपल टर्म्स बिजनेस ओनर, जो कि कंबाइन करता है इन तीन चीजों को. सो व्हाट आर द फोर फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन? लैंड, रिपीट आफ्टर मी, लैंड, labor, capital. Now capital is of two types, fixed and working capital, and the fourth is the person who combines all of the other factors of production, and that is the entrepreneur. So land, labor, capital and entrepreneur are the four factors of production. ये याद रखिएगा, परसों की क्लास में when we study the concept of GDP, then also it will be important. ठीक है? Now this was the first economic activity. Clear? The second economic activity is very easy, consumption. That means the goods that are being produced by the company, by the factories, when people like you and I buy it, use it, it is called as the activity of consumption. When you purchase food, when we purchase clothes, when we purchase cars, all of that is consumption. Khana nahi sirf, everything. Buying any goods and service is called the consumption function. The third function is, the third economic activity is exchange, meaning exchange of one resource for another. तो अगर मान लीजिए मैं लेबर हूं, तो मैं जाके इस फैक्ट्री में I'm going to work. So what am I doing? I am giving my skill, my time, my energy to the company, and in return, what am I getting? I'm getting a salary. Exchange. So when people like you and I, if I am teaching for KSG India, I am giving my skill, my knowledge, my time, my energy to this company, and in return, I'm getting a salary. So this function is called this activity is called the exchange activity. ठीक है? Simple है. I don't think there should be a problem. Very simple, these concepts. Why we are doing this? Because in many books, in many places, you will find them mentioned very casually. So पता होना चाहिए कि क्या है. ठीक है? Now, the next important topic is central problems of an economy. Okay? Central problems of an economy. Now, in undertaking these three economic activities, we know, we are aware of the concept of scarcity. हमें पता है कि scarcity है society में. So in undertaking this sort of basic economic activity, every society faces a scarcity and has to make choices. But in problems को 3 central problems में summarize किया गया है. So there are basically 3 central problems facing every economy in the world, from India to Nepal to United Kingdom to Saudi Arabia. Every economy is going through these problems. इस problem को कहते हैं central problems of economy. The first problem facing any economy is what to produce. Okay, so every country has limited resources, limited labor, limited capital. So what is the production that the country should undertake? So in India may, very badly I've drawn this map, but please bear with me. You can see here, as I said, land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, everything is limited. So this country, what should this country produce? Should we produce more food, or should we produce more machinery? Land limited है, so agriculture में ज्यादा पैसा लगाए to feed the people, end hunger, और machinery ज्यादा, factory ज्यादा set up करे to produce, production, to boost production. Should we set up more schools, or should we set up more hospitals? So the first and foremost problem facing any economy is, given the limited resources, given the problem of scarcity, what should we produce in the economy? What kind of goods and services should the country produce? बहुत simple है. The second problem is, okay, now we decided कि हमें agricultural goods produce करने हैं. So we want to produce more food. The second problem that arises is, कैसे produce करना है? How do we produce this? Do we use more labor? Because country में unemployment ज़्यादा है, overpopulation की problem है. So do we use more labor, or do we use more machinery so that the job gets done in faster, in a more efficient manner? So this is the second problem that every country faces, that how to produce. What is the technique that we should use? The first technique is labor intensive technique. That means using more labor rather than capital or machinery. हमने capital पढ़ा था, देखिए. Now this is how things get interconnected. Capital means, one of the types of capital is tools and machinery. तो अगर ज्यादा tools और machinery use होगा किसी economy में, labor की इतनी requirement नहीं होगी. Think of a country like Japan. You would see in the news, mechanization हो रहा है, robots are doing the jobs. So why is Japan using that? Because वहाँ पे labor की कमी है. It is an aging country. वहाँ पे working age population कम है. So they prefer to use more machinery, more technology. But for a country like India, जहाँ पे unemployment ज़्यादा है, where there is surplus of surplus of labor, what do we choose? Most of our techniques are labor intensive, क्योंकि labor cheap है, machinery और ये सब ज़्यादा expensive. So depending upon the position of your country, you choose between these two. The technique of capital intensive uses more machinery than labor, seen in countries such as Japan. ठीक है? The third and final problem is, for whom to produce. You are producing the goods, you know the technique, but आप किसके लिए produce कर रहे हो? Are you producing the goods for the rich of the society, or are you producing them for the poorest sections of society? तो मान लीजिए, अगर आपकी इकोनॉमी में प्रोडक्शन हुआ राइस 100 kg का, okay, now how do you distribute this? Do you make sure that the poor get it for free, or do you say that no, if the poor can afford it, they'll buy it, if cannot, they will not buy it? So are you ensuring minimum amount for everyone, or are you deciding that जो भी afford कर सकता है वो खरीदे? अगर अमीर खरीद सकता है तो अमीर खरीदे. If the poor can afford it, let the poor buy it. So what is the criteria? For whom are you producing? So what are the three problems? What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Okay. Now, yahan tak I hope everything is clear. Everything is very simple. Now all of you will agree with me. जो मैंने class की शुरुआत में I had promised you that economics is the easiest subject. I hope everyone agrees with me until now at least. What have we studied? We studied economics के दो branches हैं, microeconomics, and then we studied about the three economic activities: production, consumption, exchange. In production, we studied four requirements, which are, think, I can't hear you, but you can say it: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Then we talked about the three central problems of an economy: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce.
Now I'm going to start the first chapter. To understand anything, suppose somebody is saying that my weight is 40. Suppose you ask someone, what is your weight? And someone has said, my weight is 80. So what is 80? 80 pounds, 80 kilos, 80 tons, 80 grams. What is 80? Or if you'll go in the shop, or if you'll go somewhere and you'll say that I need 80. I need 80 floor, or I need 10 floor. So the person who is listening to you or your demand will not be able to understand what you are asking, right? And that's why we need the unit and measurement. That's why units are so much important to us. Each and everything which is happening around us, or each and every work which we do, is based on units. Without using the units, you can't do the accurate work. You can't do the works in the right manner. And that's why the units are important to us. So I'm going to start with the unit and dimension, especially the unit and measurement. Now, in NCERT, the topic unit is given in two different chapters. In NCERT, the chapter unit is given in two different chapters. The first one is class 6 chapter 10th. The second one is class 11th chapter 2nd. The second one is class 11th chapter 2nd. Right? Is it clear? Now, what is a physical quantity? Because the units are usually associated with the physical quantity. So, what is a physical quantity? How can we define the term physical quantity? Anything which can be defined and measured are called physical quantity. So, those things, those quantities which can be defined and which can be measured are called physical quantities. Is it clear? For example, weight, height, length, force, acceleration, anything which can be measured or which can be defined is called a physical quantity, right? Now the important thing is that each and every physical quantity has two basic characteristics. One is its numerical magnitude and the other one is its unit. There are two things. First one is its numerical magnitude, it means its numerical value, and second one is unit. Without unit, a physical quantity is actually useless, right? Sure? Is it clear, guys, that without unit a physical quantity is useless to us? Without unit a physical quantity is useless to us. So unit is very much important to give the details about a physical quantity. Now there are two types of quantities. One is called fundamental quantities. One is called, so physical quantities can be classified in two types. Guys, just a minute. The physical quantities can be classified in two categories. First one is fundamental and second one is derived. First one is fundamental quantities and second one is derived quantities, right? The physical quantities which are independent of each other, it means which are not dependent on any other physical quantity, are called fundamental physical quantity. So those quantities which are actually individual and which are not dependent or which cannot be derived from other quantities are called the fundamental quantities. So the best example of fundamental quantities are the temperature, mass, length, time, mass, temperature. These are examples of the fundamental quantities. So which are individual, which are not dependent on any other quantity, these are called fundamental quantities. Then there are a few quantities which are formed with the help of other quantities, and those are called derived quantities. For example, we are saying area. So area means length into breadth, it means length into length. So area, length into width. Volume is LBH, length into breadth into height. So those quantities which are actually derived or which are based on other quantities are called derived quantities. Is it clear to everyone? Nidhi, okay. So just a minute. Sure, I'll use some Hindi words too. But you have to remember one thing, that the basics, each and everything will be in the English actually. So I'll use a few Hindi words to explain the things only, right? So basically, there are two types of quantities. One is fundamental quantity and the other one is derived quantity. The fundamental quantities are those which are not dependent on any other quantities. It means which are individual quantities. तो जितने भी जो भी इंडिविजुअल क्वांटिटीज हैं वो सब क्या है हमारे लिए फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटीज हैं जो अकेले होती हैं. If you are saying that my weight is 80 kg, if you are saying that my height is 5 foot 10 inch, right, or you are saying my height is 6 foot 11 inch, or somebody is saying his height, that my height or someone else height is 4 foot 2 inch. So these quantities in which we are talking about the length, height means length basically, so height or length, or you may saying that the temperature of the body is about 38 degrees centigrade, right, or the doctors measures the temperature in Fahrenheit. So ये सारी quantities क्या हैं? All these quantities are fundamental quantities, because these quantities are not expressed or not formed by using other quantities. But there are certain quantities which are actually formed by using the fundamental quantities. For example, the volume. So volume का formula क्या होता है? The formula for volume is length, breadth into and height. Now volume, length, breadth and height, all are length actually. So we are using length for 3 times and that is giving us the volume. ठीक है, वो हमें क्या देता है? Volume देता है. So similarly, if you will say about the acceleration, so acceleration is, or if you say speed. Now what is speed? If you will talk about the speed is distance upon time. स्पीड को मेजर कैसे करते हैं? किलोमीटर पर आवर में, यानी डिस्टेंस अपॉन टाइम. सो अगेन स्पीड इज अ derived यूनिट और derived क्वांटिटी. स्पीड इज अ derived क्वांटिटी. और वही इनमें दो पार्ट है, देखो ध्यान से. डिस्टेंस मतलब लेंथ एंड टाइम. सो ये दो फंडामेंटल यूनिट्स हैं, दो फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटीज हैं हमारे पास. These are the two fundamental quantities, or these two quantities when coming together are creating a third physical quantity, that is speed. But speed is not a fundamental quantity since it is formed by using two different fundamental quantities. So a derived quantity is a quantity which is actually formed by using two or more fundamental or derived quantities. अब क्वेश्चन यहाँ ये आता है कि एक बात तो ठीक होगी कि स्पीड की बात हम कर रहे हैं. सो स्पीड इज अ derived क्वांटिटी, बट कैन वी क्रिएट अनदर derived क्वांटिटी बाय यूजिंग अ derived क्वांटिटी? यस, द आंसर इज यस. फॉर एग्जांपल, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द एक्सेलरेशन. टॉकिंग अबाउट एक्सेलरेशन. नाउ द फॉर्मूला फॉर एक्सेलरेशन इज speed upon time. So acceleration is again a derived quantity. ठीक है, बट यह एक ऐसी क्वांटिटी है जो फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटीज से नहीं बनी है. इट इज नॉट फॉर्म्ड बाय द फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटीज, इट इज फॉर्म्ड बाय अ derived quantity and a fundamental quantity. So you have to remember one thing, that the fundamental quantities are independent of any other quantity. राइट, फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटी बाकी सारी क्वांटिटीज से अलग होती हैं, इंडिपेंडेंट होती हैं. वहीं जो derived क्वांटिटीज होती हैं, दे आर यूजुअली फॉर्म्ड ईदर बाय द फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटीज और बाय सम अदर derived क्वांटिटीज. ठीक है, श्योर है सब लोग? चलो, यहां तक कोई डाउट नहीं है? Now, the physical quantities can also be classified in a third form, and that is called supplementary quantity. That is called supplementary quantity. Now, what are the supplementary quantities? So, those quantities which are neither the fundamental quantities nor the derived quantities are called supplementary quantities. तो ऐसी क्वांटिटी जो ना तो आपको फंडामेंटल हो न ही derived हो, उनको हम क्या कहते हैं? सप्लीमेंट्री क्वांटिटी कहते हैं. एंड द गुड एग्जांपल्स आर प्लेन एंगल एंड सॉलिड एंगल. प्लेन एंगल एंड सॉलिड एंगल. क्लियर है सबको? श्योर है? इज इट क्लियर? Okay, now the next thing, the physical quantities can also be classified as a scalar and vector quantity. Now, scalar and vector quantities are very important to us. Why? Because when we talk about the motion, when we talk about the different physical terms, in that case, the importance of direction cannot be ignored, right? So, on the basis of the existence of direction, the physical quantities are classified into scalar and vector quantities. Into scalar and vector. So, what is the basic difference between the scalar and vector quantities? Is that if a quantity has both magnitude as well as direction, then that is called the vector quantity. But when the quantity only has the magnitude but no direction, then it is called a scalar quantity. I am giving you two very basic examples, right? distance and displacement. So when we talk about the distance, it is a scalar quantity. Why? Because in distance we never talks about the direction in which the object is moving. The direction is not important to us in that case. But what about our displacement? In case of a displacement, the direction is very much important. ठीक है. So distance किसका एग्जाम्पल है? Distance is an example of a scalar. और डायरेक्शन और डिस्प्लेसमेंट किसका एग्जाम्पल है? वेक्टर का. क्यों? क्योंकि डिस्प्लेसमेंट में दोनों चीजें देखी जाती हैं. क्या क्या देखते हैं हम? आपको मैग्नीट्यूड भी देखते हैं, उसकी वैल्यू क्या है भी देखते हैं, और उसका डायरेक्शन क्या है भी देखते हैं. सो आपका डायरेक्शन चेंज होता है तो उसका साइन चेंज हो जाता है. जैसे मान लो एक ऑब्जेक्ट है जो ए से चलना स्टार्ट कर. सपोज एन ऑब्जेक्ट मूव्स फ्रॉम ए टू बी and then came back to A. ठीक है. So total distance traveled by the object is, suppose it is x, so the total distance traveled by the object will be x plus x, that is equal to 2x. But what about the total displacement? Now in this case the displacement from A to B is x, but the displacement from B to A, the direction is changed, the direction is reversed, तो उसका साइन भी क्या होगा? वो भी चेंज हो जाएगा. So in that case it will be x plus minus x, that is equal to x minus x means 0. तो डिस्प्लेसमेंट कितना हो गया हमारे लिए? 0 हो गया. और डिस्टेंस कितना है? 2x है. क्लियर है? सो यहां पर हमारे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट क्या होता है कि कौन सा क्वांटिटी वेक्टर है और कौन सा स्केलर है, बिकॉज दैट प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल in measuring the things, in calculating the different things. So when we talk about the distance, power, energy, time, speed, volume, density, pressure, these are the scalar quantities. ठीक है. And when we talk about the displacement, velocity, acceleration, torque, position, force, then these are the vector quantities. So whenever there is both magnitude as well as the direction, then the quantities are vector, and when there is only the magnitude, the quantities are scalar. Clear है सबको? Guys, clear है? बताओ. Is it clear, guys? ठीक है, चलो आगे चलते हैं. Next thing is measurement of physical quantity. To measure a physical quantity, we need two basic things. The measurement of physical quantity needs two basic things. First thing is our standard unit, and the second thing is numerical value. जैसे मैंने क्लास के स्टार्टिंग में कहा था, सपोज आपके शॉप पे जाते हो एंड यू आर सेइंग दैट आई नीड 20 फ्लोर, आपको आटा चाहिए, and you are saying that we need or you want rice and you are saying we need 20 rice. शॉपकीपर क्या समझेगा? कुछ भी नहीं. क्यों? क्योंकि आपने उसके साथ appropriate unit यूज नहीं किया. So you have to say that we need 20 kilograms of rice or 10 kilograms of rice, right? So whenever you represent a physical quantity, the representation of physical quantity consists of two parts. First one is standard unit and second one is its numerical value. So without a standard unit, the measurement is not possible. The measurement is useless to us, right? So the standard unit can be defined as the unit in which the quantity is measured. The standard unit can be defined as the unit in which the quantity is measured. For example, when we are talking about the time, or when we are talking about suppose temperature, then we usually use either centigrade or Fahrenheit, right, or Celsius. So centigrade or Celsius is the unit of temperature. Now the unit should be precise and of convenient size. Well, the most important thing is that the unit should be precise and of convenient size. ठीक है, बहुत बड़े साइज का भी नहीं होना चाहिए, बहुत छोटा भी नहीं होना चाहिए. We can't use very large, very big units for a small work. Similarly, we can't use small units for big work, right? So we need an unit of convenient size. And the second thing is it should be precise, it should be accurate. अगर यूनिट accurate नहीं है तो हमारी किसी काम का नहीं है. और सेकेंड पार्ट क्या होता है हमारे लिए? न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू. ठीक है, क्लियर है चीज? Now the units can also be classified in three categories. Just like the physical quantities are classified in three basic categories: fundamental, derived, supplementary. Similarly, units are also classified in three basic categories. First one is fundamental unit. Second one is derived unit. The third one is supplementary unit. So the units can also be classified in three different categories. First one is fundamental unit, second one is derived unit, and third one is supplementary unit. The fundamental units are also known as the base units. इनको हम क्या कहते हैं? Base units. So these are the basic units. These are the basic units. ठीक है? Some of the important fundamental units are kilogram or gram, you may say, meter, Kelvin, Kelvin for temperature, or degree Celsius, Fahrenheit, all these things are there. Then there is seconds, ampere, volt, and these are our ampere, mole, candela. These are our fundamental units. So actually these units are those units which are not based on any other unit. ये किसी और के ऊपर dependent नहीं है. That's why these are called fundamental units. Then there is derived unit. The derived units are actually formed by using the base units or fundamental units. So when a unit can be expressed as a combination of two fundamental units or one derived unit and one fundamental unit, then it is called a derived unit. For example, we're talking about the speed. Speed का क्या होता है? Kilometer per hour. The unit for speed is kilometer per hour, right? Distance upon time. Similarly, if you are talking about the volume, volume is L cube and meter cube, right? Clear? So these are the good example of derived units. ठीक है? Clear issues? Whereas the units for solid plane angle or solid angle, which are neither the part of the fundamental or derived, are called the supplementary units. ठीक है? Next thing, and next thing is very important for all of us, because we come across different type of units in different chapters, in different topics. So we have to understand what are the different type of measurement systems which are used around the world.
Let us start with
the geological time scale. Now, what is geological time scale? You don't have to mug it up. This is simply an introduction. Again, this is from NCERT. I have purposefully kept the material on the slides also from the NCERT, so that when you go back, read these books, you will have a sense of familiarity. Now, what is a geological time scale? GTS, or geological time scale, talks about how the earth has evolved. Now, let us make a connection. It is believed that it was the Big Bang theory, or it was the Big Bang, which resulted into the creation of the universe. Now, what is this Big Bang? Is that the entire material of the universe was concentrated at one point, and suddenly there was an explosion, and the universe has been expanding since, creating into different types of galaxies, within which there are multiple stars, within which there are multiple planets, there are different solar systems, etc., etc. Now, when I say the evolution of any planet, whenever I see the evolution of Earth, I see, or what is believed to be true, that all the planets have been the big giant balls of gases. Is this something that we have been reading since we were kids? That all the planets were nothing but the balls of gases. They started rotating at a very fast pace. When they started rotating, from gaseous state, they got converted into liquid state. From the liquid state, they got solidified, and the planets, or the terrestrial planets, were created. So even today, if we look at our solar system, in our solar system can also be divided into two types of planets. I will have Mercury, I have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Right? This is how we arrange. So we have Mercury, which is closest to the Sun. Then I have Venus, then I have Earth, and then I have Mars. These are the terrestrial planets. These are the terrestrial planets, right? Terrestrial planets, और यहाँ पर मेरा आ जाता है Jupiter. Jupiter and the other planets. What are the other planets? The Neptune and the Uranus. So Jupiter, along with, there is no place on the board, Neptune and Uranus. Earlier there was Pluto also. These together are called as the gaseous or the Jovian planets. These are called as the gaseous or the Jovian planets. There is a reason why all these space agencies, not just ISRO, NASA, Chinese Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, everyone is trying to put a lander or a rover on Mars. They are trying to study Venus. We have Shukrayaan mission which is coming up. Why they are trying to study them? Because these are terrestrial planets and they have a possibility of life. Whereas these planets are still in the gaseous state. In between, this is my asteroid belt. So the asteroid belt is between the terrestrial and the gaseous planet, and the terrestrial planets are believed to have the possibility of life. But within this also, these two planets, being very close to the sun, are extremely hot. The temperature is extremely hot. In fact, at Venus, the greenhouse effect is so high, so strong, that a human cannot survive even for a 1 complete minute on Venus. Whereas on Mars, it is distant from sun, but since it has very thin atmosphere, therefore it becomes extremely hot in the day and extremely cold in the night, making life difficult on Mars. So it is Earth which has the optimum distance from the sun, and the life is possible. So the planets which were gaseous, they started rotating and they started cooling down. I want you to remember this. So what was happening? The planets were in the gaseous state. They started rotating and the cooling of the gases started. The planets started becoming liquid, and from the liquid state they started becoming solid. So Earth is a terrestrial planet because it has moved from these stages and is now in a solid state. But when Earth became solid, the life as we know today did not start right away. In fact, if I want to divide the time period of the Earth, I can divide it into these different categories. First is, if you want, you can note down also. First is eons. The largest, the time period or the time scale which is much larger is eon. Eon can be divided into various eras. Different eras can be divided into different period. For example, Jurassic period. We all know about the Jurassic period. Jurassic period when the dinosaurs were the most dominant species. After periods, you have the epochs, and from epochs you have the years or ages. So I can divide Earth into three major eons. The first is when the origin started, origin of the universe, origin of the stars, the Big Bang or the supernova, right? It is believed it is somewhere from 5,000 to 13,700 million years ago. So first is that period when everything, the entire universe was starting. Let us assume that the universe was formed and the earth was also formed. Now came the next eon, which is my Archean or Hadean time. The Archean, have you heard the term archaic? How many of you have heard the term archaic? An archaic term is used for something which is very old, which is not relevant, which is so old that you do not even have a time. For example, the rituals that you are following are very archaic. Your lifestyle is very archaic. You use it in the English language. That word archaic has been taken from the word Archean. It is taken from the word Archean. So Archean or Hadean, this is the time when there was basically no prominent life on earth. The earth was just starting. This is also called as the Precambrian era. The Precambrian era, right? The life that we know of is in this time, that is the present aeon, right? It is Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic. Now always remember, whenever you hear the word paleo, it means old life or anything which is old. You use the word paleo, Paleolithic. Lithic means rock. So rock which is very old from the paleo times. Meso is used for the Madhya Marg. Madhya Marg, do we understand? Neither this extreme nor that extreme, nor too young nor too old, in between. So whenever you use the word meso, whether it is to define the age of earth, whether it is for the availability of water, anything, meso word is optimum, in between, which is not too much, not too less, just right. So Mesozoic era is in between era, after the old era and before the young time or the new times. This is Cenozoic. Cenozoic has, now within the Paleozoic, you have different types of periods. Let us look at some important periods. I will tell you which one you have to mark. Those who are taking notes, now you can take notes from here. All right. So first write Hadean, no life. Hadean, no life. Simply write in the points form. You don't need to make this table. The Archean is the simplest life forms. The simplest life forms as if the basic microorganisms. Basic single celled microbes. Basic single celled microbes. And proterozoic is more specialized or evolved microbes. We are still microbes here, right? You still do not have very sophisticated animals. Very basic animals or basic microorganisms or even certain insects were created by this time. Now comes the three major eras, which is my Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic. Now in my Paleozoic era, right, this is how the life was evolving. Just understand this. हमको हर चीज नहीं लिखनी है, हर चीज याद नहीं करनी है. Just understand this. We started from single celled organisms, then we became some unicellular such as paramecium, etc. Do we know we used to study something called as prokaryotic and eukaryotic? कुछ याद हो रहा है? Prokaryotic organisms and eukaryotic cells, or prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. What were prokaryotic cells? Very simple type, which do not have well defined cell organelles. जैसे आपके well defined उसमें parts of the cell. If you recall parts of the cell, you had mitochondria, you had lysosomes, you had the endoplasmic reticulum, etc. तो जो पुराने सेल्स थे, जो इनिशियल सेल्स थे, उनमें ये प्रॉपर वेल डिफाइंड ऑर्गेनल्स नहीं थे. वो कौन से थे? वो थे प्रोकैरियोट्स. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज. सो प्रोकैरियोट से और वेल डिफाइंड ऑर्गेनल्स बने, एंड दीज वर यूकैरियोट्स, दैट इज द न्यू और इवॉल्व्ड सेल्स. From there came the chordatas. What were the chordatas? Chordatas are the ones which started having the backbone. From this, the fishes started evolving. From the fishes, the amphibians. Let us take the amphibians as the frogs. From the frogs came the reptiles, and from the reptiles came the dinosaurs, which were much more evolved type of reptiles. So this is how the life was evolving in the Paleozoic to Mesozoic era. So in the Cambrian you had single simple cells. Then by Devonian you had the fishes. By Permian you had the frogs or amphibians. By Jurassic era you had the dinos. You had the dinosaurs. Carboniferous era is responsible for the coal beds or coal formation. Coal beds or coal formation. Please note it down if you want. And the current Homo sapiens are from the Holocene. Holocene, which is the most recent. It is from the Holocene that the Homo sapiens or our species have evolved. Our species have evolved. So I want you to see this simple infographic which talks about how different animals or these plants helped in creating different types of resources. Please let me know once you're done writing. Okay, let me see if anyone has a doubt here. बेटा ऑडोविशियंस में आपका धीरे धीरे वर्टिब्रेट्स, जैसे वी आर वर्टिब्रेट्स, वी हैव अ प्रॉपर स्पाइनल कॉर्ड, वी हैव अ प्रॉपर स्पाइन. सो अर्लियर यू नो द वर्टिब्रेट्स व्हिच वर अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ फिश एंड the vertebras, they started evolving in the ordovician. इसलिए it's not important. Otherwise हर okay yes Chetan, so on I just wrote the important animals or the important category of animals which evolved over the time. Ordovician वाला clear है, वो उतना important because otherwise it will be very difficult to remember, right? So here with Cambrian we started with simple cells. Since you have asked, you can write it is for the early vertebrates. Beta, what are vertebrates? Vertebrates are those which have a proper spinal cord. And I am talking about the life in the water right now. Right now the life is not even on the land. It is in the water. So, dheere dheere, by the time it is Devonian era, proper fishes were created. Right? After proper fishes were created, by here the amphibians or frogs were created. And by the Jurassic time, so here you will have the lizards or the reptiles, and by Jurassic the dinosaurs or the large reptiles were created, which were the most dominant species. The Carboniferous era is especially important for creation of coal beds. Do you know that the two important, can you please note it down and let me know once you're done so that we move ahead. बेटा सिलूरियन ये सारे के सारे आपके डिफरेंट एराज हैं, है ना? इनमें जो इम्पोर्टेंट है हमने उनके जानवर लिखे हुए. वी हैव ओनली रिटन द इम्पोर्टेंट वंस. माही, these are different eras in which different types of animals. Okay, so please write it down, Ramya, and then I'll tell you about the meaning of all these Cambrian and all. Are we done writing? Can I remove this? Chalo. Okay, so Ramya, I have taken this from your NCERT and I have simply broken it down, right? This is what is given, Ramya, in the NCERTs. The geological time scale is what we are discussing. What is geological time scale? Geological time scale is the life of Earth, from when the Earth was formed and how it is come to this far, what are the different types of animals which have evolved, etc. इसमें the life of the earth can, for example, let us say life of humans in, as per the Hindu culture also, you divide the life of human into different, for example, you have the time when the child is early, so bal prasth, then you have grahasth time, then you have vriddha time. So you can divide on three major time scales, that is eons for earth also. Earth, when the earth was formed, if we see, it started with the origin. It started with the origin of stars. So we are talking about the formation of universe. After the formation of universe, Ramya, it went on to Hadean, which had no life, Archean, which had some life, and Proterozoic, which had some evolved type of cells. And then you have the current times. These can further, for our ease of understanding, be divided into eras. Eras which started with pre-Cambrian. Here we have not even given an era. किसी era का नाम तक नहीं दिया हुआ है. We have started from the Hadean, from where Earth was formed, where it is pre-Cambrian. Then you have the this is my Cambrian or Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic era, right? Varsha, which screen was not clear? Is the screen not clear? And then we divide these eras into different periods. तो ये जो हम अभी पढ़ रहे हैं, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, etc., these are different periods, right? These are different periods. So in different periods, you have different types of animals which have evolved. For example, as we can say here only, Cambrian में simple cells, Ordovician, Devonian, fishes, right here. Before the fishes, so early vertebrates, then Carboniferous for coal, Permian for frogs or amphibians, then for dinosaurs, and this is how different animals were evolved. So I am simply trying to explain that to you. When you read your NCERTs, you should not get confused. Tertiary era is the latest, which is going on, is quaternary. So tertiary and quaternary are the recent lives, and in the tertiary and quaternary you have Holocene, which is for human, the modern man or the Homo sapien. So it started with the Pleistocene and it is continuing with the Holocene. Ma'am, do we need to remember all of this? No, you do not need to remember, but sometimes in prelims they have asked about only this particular area, therefore I have discussed it. Is it clear to you? Can we move ahead? Today when you read your NCERT, which NCERT? 11th standard NCERT, physical geography, you will find this diagram and you will find exactly the animals also. So therefore I made you write the animals are also available here, see. The frogs and the turtles, the reptiles, the first reptiles, the vertebrates, all of this is given here. The first fish, the first trace of life on land, the coal beds, the amphibians, the first reptiles, reptiles dominant replace the amphibians, etc. Okay, chali. So read this geological time scale properly. And isse prelims mein there have been 1 to 2 questions which have been asked.
Now we were discussing the fact sheets. In fact sheet there is a San Marino. The Constitution of San Marino is believed to be the world's oldest serving constitution. मैंने बोला था कि इस बात पे डिबेट है कि यूएसए का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन या सैन मैरिनो का. Then this is written in bracket. The debate over USA constitution is always highlighted in this case. The same dispute. That is not so important discussion. We may leave here. Then we are coming to the second fact in the fact sheet. The Constitution of Monaco is the shortest written constitution. Just 10 chapters, 97 articles, and around 3,800 words. 10 chapters, 97 articles. बहुत छोटा है. कुछ फैक्ट हैं. The Constitution of India is the longest written constitution of any country, longest in the world, with how many words? 1,46,385 words in its English language, not in Hindi version. Fully came it being on 26 January. Fully, partially it came into effect from 26 November 1949. 26 नवंबर 1949 को पार्शली क्यों किया गया? क्योंकि आपको कंट्री का पार्टीशन हुआ, तो सिटीजनशिप जैसे इश्यूज जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थे, who will be the citizen of India, who will be the citizen of Pakistan, so such type of provisions were implemented with immediate effect on 26 November 1949. But holistically, the constitution was implemented on 26 January 1950. Hope all of you know 26 November is celebrated as, please comment fast. What is the difference between constitutionalism and constitutionality? I have already discussed, Manisha. Constitutionalism is the violation of the soul of the constitution, which is against the soul of the constitution or the basic structure. Those activities or acts or laws or the orders of the government are the are to be struck down by the Supreme Court through the basic concept of constitutionalism. And constitutionality is the validity mentioned in the Constitution of any act or activity. Is it okay? The screen is not clear. Yes, Constitution Day on 26 November 1949, we completed our constitution and partially implemented. 26 November is the Constitution Day, and 26 January 1950 is the Republic Day. Why we celebrate on 26 January, or why we implemented the Constitution on 26 January 1950? Why not completely implemented on 26 November 1949? Why? 26 January 1950. Why it was chosen as the implementing day or Republic Day? अरुणिमा, इशू, जल्दी बताओ. 26 जनवरी क्यों? Why? 26 January. Nobody is commenting. 26 January. Why 26 January? All of you know 26 January 1930. The day was celebrated as the first Indian Independence Day by the Congress Party. That's why 26 January was chosen as the historical day, in the sense that was the first celebration of Independence Day. But we got the मतलब ये कहने का कि हम 15 अगस्त को 1947 में इंडिपेंडेंस हुए, ब्रिटेन ने फ्रीडम दी, तो 15 अगस्त को तो हम सेलिब्रेशन करने लगे. दैट वाज द इंडिपेंडेंस सेलिब्रेशन. बट व्हाट अबाउट द 26 जनवरी, तो हम पहले सेलिब्रेट करते आ रहे थे, तो उसको हिस्टोरिकल इंपॉर्टेंस देने के लिए वी चूज द 26 January's day as the implementing day or the Republic Day. Is it okay? Because of Lahore session in 1930, Purna Swaraj, yes. That was not the 1930, that was the 1929 Lahore session. In 1930, that was the Karachi session. I hope so. Came into existence on 26 January. No Why was 26 January chosen? Question was that. Okay, come here. Fact in the fact sheet. Alabama Constitution is the longest, but it is not a country. ये भी एक फैक्ट है कि इंडिया का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लॉन्गेस्ट है, बट इंडिया इज अ कंट्री. Alabama is not a country, but it has the longest constitution in the world. These are the small type of facts. I just those such type of facts. Now come to the next. How effective is a constitution and what makes it effective? Effectiveness depends on those people who are governing the constitution or the system. Sorry, governing the system. इफेक्टिव है या नहीं है ये उन लोगों पे डिपेंड करेगा. It will depend on those people who are running the constitution. This refers to how a constitution comes into being. Who crafted the constitution? The same mentality will be shown. Who crafted the constitution? He was Ambedkar, he was Jawaharlal Nehru, he was Vallabhbhai Patel, such type of lawyers, the great lawyers, who studied in the great institutions in America, in Britain, etc. Who crafted the constitution and how much authority did they have? What type of provisions they were free to provide in the constitution? In many countries, constitution remain defunct because they are crafted by military leaders, not the leaders like ours, who were the torch bearers of our freedom struggle, who got the opportunity to make the constitution of our country. Not like the dictators in other countries who crafted or designed the constitution according to their uh, you know, will or something else. Military leaders or leaders who are not popular and do not have the ability to carry the people with them, like Myanmar, North Korea. There are many examples. The most successful constitutions like India, South Africa, the United States, and the constitution which were created in the aftermath of popular national movements came into existence on 26 January. The Lahore session. Okay, no recent comment. Although India's constitution was formally created by a constituent assembly between 9th of December 1946 and 26 November 1949 is due upon, these dates are not mentioned, I am just giving you the fact. It drew upon a long history of the nationalist movement, which started from 1857 revolt. Is it okay? That had a remarkable ability to take along different sections of Indian society together in India. The draft constitution was before the public for 8 months. मतलब सेंस ये कि बिफोर द पब्लिक वो रखा गया तो इसको जो कॉमन पीपल है वो उसको रीड करें और कोई कमेंट हो तो उसको कमेंट को बताएं, मतलब कुछ भी जो उनको लगता है. All countries that have constitutions are not necessarily democratic. There are many such type of countries, but all countries that are democratic will have constitutions. Read this fact, this line. It may be in prelims options. All countries that have constitution are not necessarily democratic. It may be recession, assertion or reasoning type of question. Read this line. But all countries that are democratic will have constitutions. Democracy, if there is a democracy, it is mandatory that there will be constitution, whether written or unwritten. Unwritten like Britain, written like India or USA. But countries which have the constitution created by the dictators or military officers. They may have a constitution, but not democracy. After the War of Independence against Great Britain, the Americans gave themselves the same thing I have already discussed. The 13 colonies which got the independence from Great Britain. After the French Revolution, the French people approved a democratic constitution. French people का जो constitution था ना वो कई बार बदला गया. So many times it was changed again and again. Since then, it has become a practice in all democracies to have a written constitution, which means it is a conclusion. Written constitution is much better than unwritten constitution. In unwritten constitution, there are many types of documents. There is a lot of flexibility, which may be misused by the upcoming governments in their favor or in their ideologies. But in written form of constitution like USA and India, there is a rigidity. We cannot easily change or amend the constitutions. The conclusion is this, that the written constitutions are much better than the unwritten constitution. India's constitution was drawn up under very difficult circumstances. Everyone knows. The making of the constitution for a huge and diverse country. Diverse means there are many religions, there are many cultures, there are many ethnicities of the people. Like India was not an easy affair. Yes, it was not an easy affair. Indian constitution may, there are many schedules like 5th schedule, 6th schedule, which give special provisions for the northeastern states, scheduled areas, scheduled tribe areas. Is it not it? It means it was not an easy affair. There were many princely states, 552 princely states. Many of them, the rulers of those princely states were not willing to join Indian Federation or India. They wanted to merge with Pakistan or with some other neighboring princely states to form a new unit or country within country, you may call. The making of the constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not an easy affair. At that time, the people of India were engaging from the status of subjects to that of citizen. It was a great thing. We were subject before this constitution. Subjects means who will rule us. It will be decided by the British government. They will rule us. And now the subjects, which means we, the Indians, will elect our governments, elect or create our bodies, constitutional bodies or legal bodies. It was a great thing. Now we were becoming the citizens of this country. The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. This was a traumatic experience for the people of India and Pakistan. This is not the fact needed in polity. It requires to be written in history, modern history.
मॉडर्न इंडिया में जो हम पढ़ेंगे दैट विल बी योर यूरोपियन पेनिट्रेशन इनटू इंडिया. यूरोपियन penetration to India. How the Europeans came to India and means in what period, in what manner वो आते हैं, all of that we need to remember. What are the major systems which were utilized by them to continue or to, you can say, control different regions? All of that we will understand in this heading, that is European penetration into India. European penetration में of course the order becomes important कि कौन यूरोपियन पास आई, कब आई, and what are the specific systems which they utilized. Related to them we need to study this you can say their related activities which have very high probability of being asked in this examination. वैसे भी in recent trend you will find that the questions, the number of questions from your 18th century or you can say pre 1857 19th century में भी वो बढ़ गया है. So we have high probability of getting question from this topic also. So what is this European penetration into India? कौन कौन से यूरोपियंस है? सबसे पहले तो ये पता होना चाहिए. The first to come were the Portuguese. Portuguese, they came to India from your late 15th century. Late 15th century they entered into India, and Vasco da Gama was the first Portuguese who came to India and visited the port of Calicut. 1498 में, means the last years of your 15th century. That is how you need to see this. Portuguese पहले आते हैं. इसके बाद I'm just giving you the flow कि कौन कौन कैसे आ रहा है. Then we will see each of the you can say development under each of these European powers. So the first was Portuguese. After them we saw the Dutch. The arrival of Dutch in India. They established their first factory in India in 1605. So yes, that is what we need to see, arrival of Dutch in India. उसके बाद आते हैं English. English ये Dutch के भी बाद आएंगे, but yes, they will emerge victorious, or they will emerge victorious among all the European powers, and they will succeed in controlling the vast resources of India by eliminating not only the foreigner powers or the European power or European counterpart, but also the native powers. वो देखेंगे. सो यूरोपियन पेनिट्रेशन इनटू इंडिया में पोर्टुगीज हो गया, डच हो गया, इंग्लिश हो गया, एंड द फोर्थ टू कम आफ्टर इंग्लिश इट इज योर Danish, the people of Denmark, Danish, and the last to come was the French. Please remember this order. ये आपको क्लैरिटी देगा कैसे कैसे ये लोग आए हैं यूरोपियंस. नाउ वी नीड टू सी कि कब आए हैं and what are the systems associated with these people or these nations. This order is clear, I hope. Now let's start with the first system, that is your Portuguese. Portuguese से related the first information which you need to remember is it was Vasco da Gama who came to India or visited the port of Calicut in India in 1498. And Vasco da Gama ने वहाँ से क्या खरीदा था? Pepper, these spices, and he sold those spices in European market at very high rate and made huge profit. और उस profit ने पोर्टुगल्स को और पोर्टुगीज पीपल को इंडिया की तरफ अट्रैक्ट किया. एंड देयरफॉर आफ्टर few years Vasco da Gama again came to India along with other Portuguese, and in all this he was supported by the Portuguese government. Understood? So the first to come, कौन सा सेंटर है वो सब देखते हैं. So write down the first thing, the Vasco da Gama visited the port of Calicut. Calicut कहाँ पे है? I hope everyone knows Calicut. Calicut, present day Kerala. So और ये कोस्टल अगर हम देखें तो वेस्ट कोस्ट पे जो आपका सदर्न मोस्ट है, मीन्स योर which coast it is? It is your Malabar coast ना. So Malabar coast पे ये coastal city है Calicut की, and Vasco da Gama visited this port of Calicut and he was received. क्योंकि यहाँ कोई native ruler तो होगा ही definitely, तो native rulers जो थे, he was received by native ruler with the title of Zamorin. Zamorin is the title given to the native rulers of the Calicut, and he was received by, yes Ramya, that's correct. Then this Zamorin, and he entered into a trade relation. He bought the pepper or the spices from India, sold it in the European market and made huge profit. This is how this whole Portuguese engagement with India started. 1498 में. तो अब 1500 means in your early 16th century you will see that large number of Portuguese who were supported by the government, they came to India with the same aim to earn more profit by purchasing your say Indian spices and selling it in European market. ये चीज इनके दिमाग में बैठ गई कि yes, this trade is very profitable, and इसके लिए उन्हें क्या करना है, they need to control the trade route. Trade route means, if you look at the map of India, I'm talking about this region ना, हम कैलिकट की बात कर रहे हैं और मलाबार कोस्ट केरला की बात कर रहे हैं. इस अगर मैप को देखोगे तो दिस होल रीजन इज योर बे ऑफ बंगाल ना, ये अफ्रीका हो गया, यहाँ वेस्ट एशिया आ गया. सो दिस रीजन, इसे हम कहते हैं इंडियन ओशियन रीजन. ये भी इंडियन ओशियन है एंड ये भी इंडियन ओशियन है. So the Portuguese wanted to control this Indian Ocean trade network, to control this pepper trade and make huge profit by selling them in European market. ये इनका aim बन गया, and therefore they started certain policies to achieve this aim. So the second heading related to Portuguese, एक point तो हमने देख लिया, yes, Vasco da Gama, he came to India and by selling pepper in the European market made huge profit. Then with the same aim, large number of Portuguese came, and we saw even the government supported this, and वहाँ पे जो first Portuguese governor who came to India was Francis de Almeida, first Portuguese governor. जैसे हम ब्रिटिशर्स में भी देखते हैं ना, फर्स्ट गवर्नर दैट वाज योर वॉरेन हास्टिंग्स. सो वैसे ही पोर्टुगीज का जो फर्स्ट गवर्नर है दैट वाज योर फ्रांसिस डी अल्मेडा. ही विल कम टू इंडिया, एंड कौन सी पॉलिसी पोर्टुगीज फॉलो करेंगे इस टाइम पे? दे वांटेड टू कंट्रोल इंडियन ओशन ट्रेड नेटवर्क, एंड दस दे ब्रॉट two new policies. So two policies introduced by Portuguese. Number one is the Cartaz system. अब पोर्टुगीज को अगर इंडियन ओशन ट्रेड नेटवर्क कंट्रोल करना है तो दे विल ट्राई टू using their naval power, they will try to force every other ship which travels through this network to get a pass or permission from this Portuguese navy. If you have that kind of pass, and of course it will be sold at certain price, so if you have that pass, it means you have accepted the superior status of the Portuguese and you won't fight against them. ये एक चीज तो क्लियर हो जाती है. So yes, the Cartaz system is nothing but the pass. The pass system started by the Portuguese, under which every ship, every non-Portuguese ship which is traveling in the Indian Ocean waters need to have this Cartaz or pass if they want to trade in this water. If they want to trade in this system. Okay, so Cartaz के respect में we need to mention this point. So just write down the pass issued by the Portuguese agencies, which every non-Portuguese ships need to carry to trade in this Indian Ocean. Okay, that is your Cartaz system. Done. ये एक सिस्टम इन्होंने स्टार्ट किया just to show their superiority, just to increase their control over Indian Ocean network, trade network, I would say. Second system which was started by them Second system which was started by them was your काफिला system. काफिला system क्या था? That Indian Ocean में you must have heard about pirates ना? तो pirates उस time भी exist करते थे, इस time भी exist करते थे, and they used to attack the ships of these you can say merchant ships. And the Portuguese, they had a very strong navy. So what they started doing, कि they started providing security cover to the merchant ships. And ये जो system है उसे ही काफिला कहा गया. So a range of or a number of small merchant ships were providing provided the military cover or security cover by the Portuguese Navy, and that convoy जो Navy fleet का था Portuguese का, वो काफिला की तरह चल रहा है, and that is how you got this name of काफिला system. So just mention this, just write down. Under this the Portuguese provided the security cover to merchant ships by using the Portuguese Navy. Okay, so this is Kafila, and both this system can be clubbed together to say that the Portuguese followed blue water policy. Blue water policy किससे related हो गया? The policy related to your control over your Indian Ocean network, Indian Ocean trade network. Understand? So इस point पे you can expect a question, a single statement, that which of the following European powers tried to utilize or implement the blue water policy? It is the Portuguese. और under this blue water policy कौन-कौन से दो system use किए हैं? Kartas system and your Kafila system. Understand? So these two things you must remember. Next one after this पोर्टुगीज से ही रिलेटेड है, एंड कि ये चीज़ें तो फ्रांसिस डी अल्मेडा के टाइम स्टार्ट हो गई हैं, बट when the second governor, Portuguese governor, came to India, and his name is Alfonso de Albuquerque. Alfonso de Albuquerque, when he came to India, Alfonso, F-O-N-S-O, Alfonso de Albuquerque, when he came to India, he added a new dimension to this Portuguese policy in India. He said that if we want to increase our profit as well as increase our control over this trade, we need to have control over strategic positions on land. अभी तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ सी की बात चल रही थी. He said कि सिर्फ सी से काम नहीं चलेगा. You need to increase control over land also. And अगर land पे control increase करना है तो strategic locations को जीतना पड़ेगा. And yes, he was the one who started this policy of your annexation of land. And under this, he was the one who annexed Goa in 1510. 1510 में he was the one who annexed Goa. ये एक नया dimension add कर दिया Portuguese policy में in India. Understood? And इसके बाद ये चीज continue रहेगी. This thing later on you will see कि your Diu was also annexed by the Portuguese. So Portuguese की policy blue water policy and annexation of land और strategic location on land that was started by Albuquerque और उसके अंदर गोवा जीता है. But एक क्वेश्चन और आता है that गोवा किससे जीता है? गोवा पे रूल कौन कर रहा था उस टाइम जिसपे ब्रिटिशर्स और यू कैन से पोर्टुगीज एस्टैब्लिश देयर कंट्रोल. इफ यू लुक एट, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट 1510 मतलब 16th सेंचुरी. 16th सेंचुरी में अगर हम देखें तो इंडिया का जो डेक्कन एरिया है ये आपका डीप साउथ हो गया. डीप साउथ में कौन रूल कर रहा है? इट इज योर विजय नगर. विजयनगर एम्पायर इज रूलिंग इन डीप साउथ। एंड ये जो डेक्कन का एरिया है, ये 5 डेक्कनी स्टेट्स हैं जो रूल करते हैं। 5 डेक्कनी स्टेट्स लाइक दिस इज योर गोलकोंडा। गोलकोंडा फोर्ट का नाम सुना होगा, हैदराबाद। सो तेलंगाना रीजन गोलकोंडा। ये आपका बिरार है, बिरार। ये आपका बिदार है। दिस इज योर अहमदनगर। ये डेक्कनी स्टेट्स हैं। अहमदनगर, इस पे डिटेल में आप मिड लेवल की क्लासेस में हम देखेंगे इनको। देन कम्स योर बीजापुर। इफ यू लुक एट द मैप यू विल फाइंड कि गोवा तो यहां है ना, मुंबई, गोवा, कर्नाटक ऐसे ही तो है। तो गोवा फॉल्स अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ बीजापुर ना। सो इट वाज फ्रॉम द बीजापुर किंगडम दैट द पोर्टुगीज annexed this place of Goa. Understand this? Next comes, ये बेसिक आइडिया लग गया कि पोर्टुगीज का सारी डेवलपमेंट्स इन इंडिया। एंड वन मोर थिंग, फॉर पोर्टुगीज वी नीड टू रिमेंबर द इंपॉर्टेंट सेंटर्स ऑफ पोर्टुगीज। इंपॉर्टेंट सेंटर्स ऑफ पोर्टुगीज, इंपॉर्टेंट सेंटर्स में हमें क्या दिख गया? सबसे पहले तो गोवा ही दिख गया, उससे पहले कोचीन एंड कैलिकट। These were the important centers of Portuguese in India. But Portuguese किस टाइम तक हैं? They are only strong till 16th century. Not only in India, globally also. ग्लोबली ऑल्सो जो पोर्टुगीज और स्पेन, दो नेशंस हैं जिन्होंने कोलोनाइजेशन पूरे वर्ल्ड में स्टार्ट किया है। दीज वर द टू नेशंस, पोर्टुगीज एंड स्पेन। साउथ अमेरिका में इन्होंने स्टार्ट किया था एंड दे वर प्रोमिनेंट पावर टिल योर 16th and your I would say early 17th century. उसके बाद इनका डिक्लाइन होगा और राइज होगा दो सुप्रीम पावर्स का इन द वर्ल्ड विद द नेम ऑफ योर ब्रिटेन एंड फ्रांस. So during your late 17th and 18th century particularly, two global powers were not Portuguese and Spain. It was your England and France. This you need to remember. So जैसे ही हम इंडिया में भी देखेंगे तो मेजर राइवलरी इन्हीं दोनों स्टेट्स के बीच में हमें नजर आएगी इन 18th सेंचुरी. क्लियर? सो यहां तक क्लियर हो गया पोर्टुगीज का पूरा आना एंड ऑल दिस सिस्टम विच वाज यूज्ड बाय देम, इंपॉर्टेंट सेंटर्स के साथ साथ.